I got people texting me telling me, hey.
No sound.
How about now?
Listen, guys, we came to the studio tonight, right, expecting the greatness that is free radio, but we come to find out that half of everything isn't working again, and everything's glitching out once again. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. The home of the technical difficulty. We can play the intro song for you if you want again, but it don't really matter, does it?
No, not
You've
really.
heard it all before.
Yep. What we should do though is recap on some of this news that we got going on.
So, Julian Assange back in the news again. Once again, Julian Assange in the news. He can't stay out of it. Always something.
And thanks, Mom.
So, the Ecuadorian president, or the guy running for president in Ecuador, he's saying if he gets elected, that Julian Assange won't be able to have asylum at the embassy in England anymore, and, they're going to crack down on him. I think that could be a play to try and get U.S. backing, kind of like help him hack his own election or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Do I think Trump will go along with it? Absolutely. I think Trump will definitely prosecute Julian Assange for something. He'll figure out some way to prosecute.
Well, I think he knows that, regardless, controlling what happens to Julian Assange is in his favor. I'm kind of interested to see how this played out because, I remember hearing a lot of the meta of what was going to happen, and, I know you think that this is crap, but there was a lot of buzz going on that Trump was going to pardon Snowden.
Yeah, I never believed that.
Mainly because he did something to help damage Obama.
So, we got this here from the New York Times. It's Julian Assange's fate could be decided by Ecuador's election. London. Ecuador holds a general election on Sunday. The results could have international repercussions linked to one man thousands of miles away. Julian Assange. Goldstein?
Yeah.
You think Julian Assange will become Goldstein?
The new age Goldstein.
The founder of WikiLeaks, who took refuge in the country's embassy in London nearly 5 years ago, and who remains there.
Him and Snowden basically are.
Right. Mr. Assange moved into the embassy in Knightsbridge, one of the British capital's most affluent neighborhoods, after accusations of rape in Sweden, which he has described as a cover-up for an American effort to extradite him and try him on espionage charges. Just what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Ecuador will continue its role of reluctant warden to Mr. Assange, who was granted asylum by President Rafael Correa in 2012, hinges on the outcome of the elections. 8 candidates are seeking the presidency, and at least 2 have said they would evict him if they won. If balloting reflects recent poll results, it's unlikely that Mr. Assange would need to pack his bags anytime soon. While Mr. Correa's preferred successor, Lenin Moreno, is the front-runner, polls indicate that the election is likely to go to a second round, meaning Mr. Assange's fate may not be decided until a runoff in early April. So there you have it. Then you've got Julian Assange being like, Now this is coming from, funny enough, RT. WikiLeaks will not respond to pressure from Ecuador's presidential candidates. Assange. Julian Assange has hit back at Ecuadorian presidential candidate Lenin Moreno for saying that the WikiLeaks founder should reduce his attempts to influence the politics of countries with which Ecuador has friendly relations. See? Trying to gain some favor.
Yep.
Freaking crony dictators stick together, man. In a tweet, Assange said he's...
Shit birds of a feather flock together.
In a tweet, Assange said he's open to discussions with Moreno and his rival candidate, Guillermo Lasso, but WikiLeaks will not respond to pressure. I'm always happy to talk with @Lenin or @Lasso, but WikiLeaks publishes from the EU, not Ecuador, and will not respond to pressure. Assange, who is sheltered in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, is facing an uncertain future after the country's presidential election. Lasso, who has voiced his opposition to Assange and pledged to evict him from the embassy, may no longer be a threat, according to the polls. But Moreno has spoken to RT of his own concerns over WikiLeaks founder. So, and then it goes on to quote the guy, one thing that is clear that Assange will have to reduce the meddling in policies of nations we have friendly relations with. In other words, either they're getting threatened, hey, we're going to fucking turn your country into a bombed out, husk of itself. Just look at Iraq and Syria. Or they're trying to curry favor so they can start up their own crony dictatorship.
I wonder if Ecuador has oil
Under control of the Western financial sector. Yeah. So
are we going to discover natural
this
gas
coming
in
from
Ecuador?
Russia.
Are we
This
gonna have
coming
to
from
invade
Russia
you and bring
Times.
you some freedom?
It kind of makes me think about this here.
Oh, the Russian diplomat being
Russian diplomat turning up dead. What you got there?
The thing about how the Ecuadorian Assembly the Ecuadorian are thinking about evicting old boy.
Oh right, yeah.
They're saying that Ecuador presidential hopeful promises to evict Assange from embassy. Tying back in with what you were just talking about. Yeah, they'd be
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so more tests needed on Russian UN ambassador's cause of death. So this guy, he goes to his office. He's a Russian ambassador for the UN, right? Diplomat guy. And, he just falls sick and dies. Just like kind of out of the blue. So the people who are normally investigating that don't normally investigate that type of unexpected, suspicious death. So they're calling in some other people to look for his cause of death. So, it's probably very likely that this guy was murdered. So this happened in New York.
The umbrella treatment, maybe.
It happened in New York. It's very likely this guy was poisoned.
Yeah, the UN.
I don't know what to say about that other than, hey, Russia did it, right? No, wait, it was the Russians that it happened to?
Well, the Russians.
But Russia still did it, right?
The Russians invented a thing back in the 60s, and they used to call this the umbrella treatment. They'd come up behind you with an umbrella that had a needle embedded in the end of it, and it would inject you with a cyanide caplet, and from the coroner's perspective, you would just look like you had a heart attack.
Yeah, and the best thing about that is when the dude who would do that to you was like real short and pudgy, kind of looked like Danny DeVito, had a long nose, and he was like whack, 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 with his umbrella. It was great.
Well, there are plenty of fucking short, bald Russian guys.
Danny DeVito types.
Mm-hmm.
Now, recently, I don't know if you guys have been seeing this Vault 7 thing floating around.
I have not.
All right, so it started out on WikiLeaks. The first thing I seen was a picture. It looked like an underground room. You know what I mean? It was like concrete all the way. I mean, I guess it didn't have to be underground. That's what you got the sense of from looking at the picture, though. And it was just filled with stuff. And it said Vault 7. So I found this article. I think I want to share some of it with you guys.
Wow, this is deep. This whole opening paragraph. Jesus. Yeah, this is heavy stuff. There's a struggle going on right now between the global elites, the CIA, Donald Trump, Julian Assange, and WikiLeaks. A struggle so powerful, it threatens to rip apart the fabric of our current reality. It's not a struggle between left and right. It's a war between the infinitely rich and powerful and the rest of human civilization. It involves Vault 7, Pizzagate or Pedogate, the State Department, the White House, whistleblowers, espionage, hackers, and DDoS attacks, Ecuador, Russia, and us, the masses. It's a very real story of corruption at the very core of our society.
So, man, all this happened in the last few months. It's pretty crazy, all the stuff jumping off right now. The Vault 7 is also supposed to be some sort of information about the shadow government at the State Department. What were they called?
What's it? The
seventh floor group.
State.
The seventh floor group or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So the world as we know it is about to change. Within our society, there is a shadow government. A government that has accumulated great wealth and power. A government that is so woven into the fabric of our reality, we can only see what they want us to see. This is a government that has manipulated and blackmailed people and countries for decades. This government controls the media, the banks, the army, the intelligence services, and most of the internet. They control narratives and agendas. They start wars and then set up charities and foundations to help the victims. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. These charitable foundations are just fronts to provide a platform and a face for their hidden agenda. Nefarious dark dealings with the Ancient Ones. This isn't simply just a plan to see who can accumulate the most wealth. This is a war. A silent war that has been unfolding right in front of our eyes. A war against us, the masses, and the prize is to become the leaders of the new world.
Well, aren't they already kind of? I mean, think about it. Like, the people that are waging this war are already kind of the people who are in charge of shit.
Well, okay, let's take a look at this here. So, leaders of the new world. The new world being the world they wish to create.
Yeah, the world described on the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, the world that's of strange meld of 1984 and Brave New World, you know, and The Matrix. So this is what they want.
It just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
So this guy continues. Well, first he gives a quote from The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. The reason most of us cannot see the bigger picture is it's simply too vast and complex. We've been misguided. We've purposely been told to look the other way. If one does get to peek behind the curtain, they are quickly silenced or branded a conspiracy theorist and drowned out by mundane mainstream media stories. Recently, though, if one reports on what is actually behind the curtain, it's been quickly labeled as fake news, reality brief, fake news.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you for tuning in for your the best dose of fake news you're going to get all week.
You got the best dose of fake news on the internet, period. I've been following and investigating Pizzagate, Pedogate, Julian Assange, Vault 7, Clinton Foundation, DNC, and Podesta emails from just after the Pizzagate Reddit thread was shut down on October 20th. This guy's got 2106.
He got time waved.
Whoa, this dude got sucked into the
This is
vortex.
from before the last update.
Shortly after the leaked stories started to appear in the MSM, mainstream media, alleging that some of Washington, D.C. elites were part of a Satan-worshipping pedo cult, suddenly the phrase fake news was invented, and the MSN would dismiss any Pizzagate, Pedogate stories as fake news. Soon after they stopped talking about Pizzagate and fake news altogether, the mantra of fighting fake news remained. The only thing that seemed to be reported was that the leaked emails were giving Donald Trump an unfair advantage, and the emails came from Russia, and they were colluding with Trump in order to become president. There was never really any reporting of what was actually in the emails.
No, and in fact, you know, the mainstream media pretty much acted like everything in there could have been made up.
Why would you report? Why would you care what was in the emails if the Russians hacked it? Why would you care what's in the emails? What difference does it make what shady criminal activity, subversion of democracy these people were involved with?
Well, when it's your own party doing it, that doesn't matter at all.
No, it doesn't.
If the Republicans were doing it.
But we know here on Reality Brief to see beyond party, because there really is only one party, and that's the party of the state.
It ain't your party.
It's the party of the state. So, neither was there much reporting on the investigation over Hillary Clinton's private email server and the fact that she bleach bit the hard drives. Oh, you mean like clean them with a cloth?
Uh-huh.
You would think now the elections have finished and she's lost, there would be no longer a need to fight fake news. But it seems not. Since Hillary Clinton lost the election and Donald Trump was sworn in, they have ramped up on the fight on fake news even further. Tech giants like Facebook, Google, and Apple have been aggressively pushing the war on fake news recently, more so now than ever.
Your page, Reality Brief, has been flagged as fake news.
Apple CEO Tim Cook calls for massive campaign against fake news. CNN Money, 2/11/2017. Facebook, Google joined drive against fake news in France. Oh, yeah, I remember. That was scary.
Well, they haven't joined the drive against it here in America yet.
They're actually like taking down websites and
stuff. Be sure to stop by the Reality Brief page and throw us a like before we get taken down for being fake news.
No, I definitely agree with this guy on this point. Personally, I find filtering my news to be far more dangerous than allowing untruthful stories or misinformation to exist.
Damn right.
Obviously, because you can, if you have any kind of thinking ability, you can easily vet a stupid article on social media that's supposed to be changing the face of democracy and you know what I mean? Like, I guess it boils down to people are just too damn lazy to do 3 clicks worth of work.
Check this out. You ever look at your Facebook feed through Skype?
No.
What's it? I've actually done that. Like, gone on Skype.
How do you do that?
Program. There's a way that I used to be able to do this on my laptop before, before my ex destroyed it on the way out of the house. Back when I had a laptop that worked, I could open up Skype and then log into my Facebook through Skype, and I would see all kinds of shit that would be posted, like stories and statuses and stuff that usually gets filtered out of it when you go through the web page, and just go through like Chrome or Firefox and browse Facebook through a browser like you normally would.
Weird. Man, it's just a scripting thing, man. It doesn't necessarily mean it's anything nefarious.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. That like Facebook by default scrubs your feed.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And try to post a YouTube link on Facebook, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so the thing is that we're not that it's not as if we haven't seen fake news in the past. Obviously, in the past it was called lies. Well. Yeah, or fake news. Yeah. The public used their critical thinking skills and would decide for themselves whether it was a lie or not. I know it's hard for some people to believe, but us humans are able to fact check for ourselves and then decide if it's fake or not. This is simply what we're doing over on Vote Pizzagate, fact checking the story for ourselves. So this is a Pizzagate investigator through and through. He's over on the Vote. Remember last week we were talking about the guy from the Vote where he got a hold of the guy from the Comet Pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy came from the Vote.
Yep.
That's voat.co.
And if you go to voat.co/v/Pizzagate, that's where the main Pizzagate thread is, talking about all this.
I mean...
So we've established, this guy goes on to talk about how there's all this fuss over fake news and who's pushing this agenda that, this is fake news. Well, some of the bullet points in here, fake news round 2. Facebook, Google, and French media team up for presidential election, 2/15/17. So this was on February 15th.
I want to skip ahead, and you guys can read this whole article.
Espionage Act could jail journalists and whistleblowers as spies.
I want to skip ahead to the meat of this here. You guys can read the whole thing on steemit.com. That's steemit.com/vault7. Ooh, /@fortified. Okay, there you go. That's a rough link. Dan, can you post that up on the Facebook for them guys?
Sure can.
All right, so you want to check that out. It's facebook.com/realitybrief.
This looks meaty right here. It says, the file that the elite want to stop us from seeing or believing its contents is from Vault 7. Vault 7 is on the 7th floor of the State Department, previously ran by Hillary Clinton and her staff. From what I've pieced together from the research I've done, I believe it's a file that will expose the CIA, hundreds of public figures, including Hillary Clinton, and many of its secrets. It can only be this. Why all the sudden flurry of activity based around the news and leaked documents? The link with Vault 7 and the DNC and Pizzagate, it's all linked.
Now, on another note, before you continue on with that, the Project Veritas, they are supposed to be releasing 100 hours of media people talking shit, I guess, tomorrow. Like CNN and all that talking. I mean, obviously, I'm expecting it to, just, verify more of what we already know about how slanted media is and how they're actually the real fake news.
Well, yeah, I think more and more people are starting to realize that most of what parades as mainstream media in this country is exactly that, fake news.
So there's something big in the shadows they don't want us to see. It's big and scary, and it's probably going to fuck us up. It can be anything from spying on countries and manipulating elections to the war on terror, ISIS and the destabilization of the Middle East, or the banking crisis being created by Goldman Sachs and Wall Street, maybe even 9/11 if it was planned. The leaks have already begun. On 2/16/17, WikiLeaks released the first in a series of CIA documents that showed the CIA was spying on all the major parties from the 2012 French general election.
I mean, big surprise.
Obviously, they are. They're spying on everyone. I don't like the CIA any more than the next guy, but that is their job to spy on other countries.
Yeah,
we're the ones they're not supposed to be spying
on. Let's see. New FBI release. Fast forward. New FBI release on Clinton email probe refers to shadow government. CNBC 10/17/17.
There was a powerful group of very high-ranking state officials that some referred to as the Seventh Floor Group or the shadow government. This group met every Wednesday afternoon to discuss the FOIA process, congressional records, and everything Clinton related to FOIA congressional inquiries.
It's a Freedom of Information Act.
The known regular attendees included Jonathan Feiner, Chief of Staff for Secretary of State John Kerry, Jennifer Stout, Deputy Chief Staff Heather Higginbottom, Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources Kennedy, Julia Fryfield, Assistant Secretary of Legislative Affairs. Ooh, redacted. So there's some people in there they definitely don't want you to know about.
Interestingly, there's been a large-scale restructuring of the 7th Floor State Department over the last couple days. So State Department carries off layoffs under Rex Tillerson. Let's see. Rex Tillerson is on an overseas trip as Secretary of State. His aides laid off staff of the State Department, much of the 7th Floor staff, who work for the Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources and the Counselor offices, were told today that their services were no longer needed. These staffers, in particular, are often the conduit between the Secretary's office to the country bureaus where the regional expertise is centered. Inside the State Department, some officials fear that this is a politically minded purge. Clear signals being sent that many key foreign policy portfolios will be controlled directly by the White House rather than through the professional diplomats. Not a single State Department official was included in the White House meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has no regional experience or diplomatic experience, had a greater role in meeting than the Senate-confirmed Secretary of State. So it looks like, there's a major push to pull power back to the executive branch, even more so than it already has. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is the craziest thing about this whole Trump presidency and how this is all going to play out, because he's basically like, I'm going to do what I want to the legislature, and So that's why I do think that some of the people who I don't think he's literally Hitler, but I do think that it's pretty funny that now people are going to start complaining about executive overreach.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. It's like it's just illustrates the point. When there's a Republican in office and we're blowing shit up, war bad. When there's a Democrat in office and we're blowing shit up, yeah, it's all good. We need to do what we gotta do.
Yep. And again, a shout out to Code Pink, because they're one of the very few groups on the left that stayed consistently anti-war through the entire Obama presidency. So props.
So, this is the same thing. When you had Obama with his executive overreach, you had the Republicans crying about it. Oh. And now the Republicans are like, oh, state, please do executive overreach and build my wall, state. Oh, yeah. So it's the same thing. It just illustrates that point even further, that it's a fucking dog and pony show designed to keep everybody confused and just going along with the status quo.
We're going to make abuse of power great again. So there's certainly more going on here than's initially reported. Trump decided to lay off many of the 7th floor staffers from Clinton's department. This by itself wouldn't be unheard of, but then to shut out the entire State Department from talks with the Israeli Prime Minister seems rather extreme, especially considering he would rather trust his own son-in-law. Clinton's foundation had raised nearly $2 billion, and some key questions. The Clintons have relied heavily on their close ties to Wall Street, with donations from financial services sector representing the largest share of corporate donors. Many of the foundation's biggest donors are foreigners who are legally barred from giving to U.S. political candidates. A third of foundation donors who have given more than $1 million are foreign governments or other entities based outside the United States, and foreign donors make up more than half of those who have given more than $5 million. Charity watchdog, Clinton's foundation a slush fund. The Clinton Foundation's finances are so messy that the nation's most influential charity watchdog put it on its watch list of problematic nonprofits. The Clinton family's mega charity took in more than $140 million in grants and pledges in 2013, but took $9 million on direct aid, or spent only $9 million on direct aid. The group spent the bulk of its windfall on administration, travel, and salaries and bonuses, with the fattest payouts going to family friends. And here's where we get into the real juicy shit. Feds make record gains on human trafficking as global networks broken up. Zero hedge. Inside the Clinton donor network. So this whole thing that we've posted from Steam It about the @fortified Vault 7, this has some links to all of this good stuff in there, talking about the dodgy shit that the Clintons have been involved in, what's happening with the deep state rising up against Trump. Glenn Greenwald wrote, "The deep state, although there's no precise or scientific definition, generally refers to the agencies in Washington that are permanent power factions. These deep state agencies stay and exercise power even as presidents who are elected come and go. They typically exercise their power in secret, in the dark, and they're so barely subject to democratic accountability, if they're subject to it at all. It's agencies like the CIA, the NSA, and the other intelligence agencies that are essentially designed to disseminate information and deceit and propaganda, and have a long history of doing not only that, but also a long history of the world's worst war crimes, atrocities, and death squads." So, I mean, that is kind of funny because, you'd think all these alphabet soup agencies are executive branch agencies, but what happens when the executive branch goes against the executive branch agencies? On the bright side, when there's chaos in D.C., they're not fucking us. So I encourage as much chaos in D.C.
Please
as possible.
tie them up.
Yes, it devour each other. I hope the state eats itself.
Shifting gears here out of this Vault 7 stuff, we got Antarctica back in the news, obviously.
Holy balls. Hey, real quick, before we jump off this, there's the too long didn't read summary at the end of this, which we probably should have skipped right to. Fake news is real news. The fight on fake news is a fight on real news. Getting out concerning a big leak of a CIA file that contains evidence of a secret global elite that worked out of the 7th floor, known as the Shadow Government. The Shadow Government have plans to potentially start World War III with Russia so they can profit from the weapons and wipe out half of the planet in the process. Damn, looks like 2017 is going to be a bumpy ride. So that's the too long didn't read, which we, again, should have gone right to. But anyhow.
So, you guys remember there was a big old crack in Antarctica, right?
A big sheet of ice falling off?
Yeah, so now it fell off.
Awesome.
And roughly the size of Manhattan.
It's not that big.
No, I mean, but it's pretty big. So they're monitoring a 80-mile long crack right now. So, hopefully that won't break off. Because, how long do you think it would take that much ice to melt into the ocean?
It depends on where it floats.
I wonder what the okay, so it's saying that it loses irresponsible. That place that it just broke off is responsible for 25% of Antarctica's ice loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a fast moving thing, so it's kind of a common occurrence. But a crack longer than 80 miles in the Larsen Sea Ice Shelf is currently being monitored. As the rift grows, the shelf gets closer to shedding more than 3,000 square mile iceberg. So that's pretty big. But they're saying Antarctica has the potential to contribute more than a meter of sea level rise by 2100 and more than 15 meters by 2500. If emissions continue unabated, in this case, atmospheric warming will soon become the dominant driver of ice loss. But prolonged ocean warming will delay its recovery for thousands of years.
Well, on the bright side, we'll be dead by then.
So we got that, which is not very good news coming out of Antarctica.
Now, I wonder if this has anything to do, all this ice melting has anything to do with UFO hunters claiming that they've spotted an alien ship.
What about those?
Who what?
They're in order.
Oh.
It don't matter, whatever. Here we go. We would love to show you this picture once again, but the station is broken again.
Yep, you're just going to have to check our Facebook page. We will post articles.
I'm posting it right now for you guys. So, go on, Dan. Tell us about this.
Well, UFO hunters claim that they've spotted an alien ship hidden in an Antarctic cave in Google Earth images. Now, we ourselves here at Reality Brief have spent a fair amount of time dicking around on Google Maps and Google Earth, looking at Antarctica, looking for hidden Nazi bases and whatnot. So, we may have seen this before. I wonder if this is Skull Mountain. You remember Skull Mountain?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I remember Skull Mountain.
It's not. Look. we have our own exclusive here. It's called Skull Mountain, and I swear to God,
there's a mountain in Antarctica that
it looks like a skull. And
It
looks like it's frozen ice or light or something coming out of the mouth of it. It's incredible.
Yeah, it looks like some Skeletor shit jumping down there.
No doubt.
So, a video zooms in on the area that the conspiracy theorists believe that there is a ship. They describe the footage as final proof of secret technology on Antarctica. Earlier this month, conspiracy theorists said they found a pyramid and a staircase built by aliens in the same region. From a pyramid created by a lost civilization to a staircase built by aliens, Antarctica has been a hotspot for sightings by UFO hunters in recent months. Now, in their latest bizarre claim, alien enthusiasts claim that they have spotted ET's ship hidden in a cave in the South Pole. Their discovery, made from what they claim are Google Earth satellite images, was described as final proof of secret technology on Antarctica. And it says scroll down for video, but since our feed is bone, you're just going to have to check our Facebook page.
I'll just put it up there for you guys.
They claim the claim has been made by Secure Team. There we go. Okay, never mind. You could have just told me Secure Team, and I would have just closed the article.
I mean, but the pictures are the pictures, bro.
Yeah, you're right. You can't shoot the messenger. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it ain't.
I mean, go down.
It's definitely a round thing.
It looks like the edge of a disc of some sort.
It does look like the edge of a disc, and it's all cattywampus. Mm-hmm. But, it could just be a hole in the ice.
Cattywampus being the technical term for...
all asswise.
Oh, shit.
Not at not 90 degrees on. But yeah, it does look like a big disc. So this let's see.
So, speaking of Antarctica, they got a neutrino observatory down there. Mm-hmm. You know what neutrinos are?
Yeah, they're tiny massless particles, mostly emitted by the sun, at least in our own immediate neighborhood. Oh, dude, they do have the Nazi base here. That big hexagon thing.
Awesome. Check it out, guys. It's on the Facebook page.
Yep.
So, Antarctica Neutrino Observatory may point beyond Higgs boson to a new physics. So, soft disclosure, guys, maybe. Well, let me sum it up for you. They're able to measure neutrinos better in Antarctica, so
because there's less radio interference from everything. There's just less EM interference from everything. It's cold, so there's less. The warmer something is, the more interaction there is between subatomic particles, right? So in the room we're in right now, there's organic chemistry and all sorts of fun stuff happening in the air around us right now. But in Antarctica, there's none of that stuff going on. So there are particles that pass through the ice that, if one of the most remote places on Earth doesn't have those particles filtered out. Now, what else is important is that there's a hole in the Earth's magnetic field at the North and South Poles. So if neutrinos are magnetically charged, then they're more likely to get in through the North and South Pole than they are, say at the equator, somewhere else that's protected by Earth's magnetic field more so.
So essentially, by observing these interactions, they're saying that it could lead to a new physics, which is something we often talk about, a black physics, a hidden physics. Physics that fuels the secret space programs.
Well, something else that's interesting, and I didn't even have a chance to post this in show notes, but I remember seeing earlier on Phys.org this week, there was an article saying that there was a proposal by physicists to add 6 new particles to the standard model.
Really?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that. But there was definitely some discussion of that. So if they're proposing, people wouldn't just propose adding new particles without something to back it up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on the subject of high strangeness and the secret space program, come across this. This was on Russia Today, I guess. Would you delete traumatic memories? Scientists have discovered how.
Awesome. Can we call these guys?
So, scientists in Canada, no less, have taken the idea of positive thinking to a whole new level by discovering a way to target and erase bad memories from our brains.
Thank you for choosing Mind Wipe Prime.
The findings could be used to treat post-traumatic stress disorder and addiction, but researchers have warned huge ethical implications. The findings could also be used to completely blank slate somebody after they served in a 20-bag secret space program. You know what I mean? But researchers at the University of Toronto found a way to target and erase fear-based memories in mice after discovering the neurons which are used to form these type of memories in the brain.
If somebody could like mind wipe the last 5 years for me, that would be swell.
Although there are millions of neurons in a brain, only a few of them are necessary to form a fear or threat memory. Researchers were able to flag up the neurons creating bad memories by overproducing a certain brain protein in mice, and then they targeted and genetically removed those neurons to erase the bad memories while keeping others. Our findings suggest that one day it could possibly treat people with PTSD by erasing the traumatic memories. Of course, they gotta spin this in a positive way. And it's just like with everything else. I'm a firm believer of if they're telling about us now, DARPA had it 20, 40 years ago. So, you know, they're saying the ethical question of we all learn from our mistakes. If we erase the memory of our mistakes, what's to keep us from repeating them? You know, nothing. You know, they shouldn't be doing this anyway because we already know what they're using it for.
Well, you know, I mean, the way I see it, you know, I do remember my mistakes and I still don't really learn from them. So.
Zing. On the same note,
well, I was gonna say, you know, there was some other science stuff coming out of Antarctica too that I thought was pretty worth mentioning. You want to go ahead and hit that?
Let me hit this first.
Yeah,
on the same note, they're calling this the Frankenstein effect.
Nice.
Dormant memories can be revived with magnetic pulse to the brain. Let me say that again. Dormant memories can be revived with magnetic pulse to the brain.
You mean like an MRI?
Yeah, like an MRI.
Wow.
So here's the cattywampus thing about that. So Randy Kramer and also Tony Rodriguez said that they gained large chunks of their memory back after getting MRIs. Let's go ahead and read this. Those who struggle to recall even the most recent of memories could one day be able to revive them with the zap of a magnetic energy to the brain. According to the new study, which sheds further light on the working memory. The notion of working memory has to do with the part of the brain which allows a human being to retain a new piece of information even when their attention is temporarily directed someplace else. Study author Nathan Rose, a neurocognitive psychologist at the University of Notre Dame, explained the concept to NPR by using a situation at a cocktail party in which a person meets two people and learns their names. However, the conversation soon shifts to just one of those people. But you don't forget who the other person is in case the conversation shifts back. And usually you don't forget because your brain has been keeping the name in working memory ready to use at a moment's notice. Rose and his colleagues set out challenge to the dominant theory on working memory, which has been in place since the 1950s. That theory states that working memory requires constant activity in the brain cells associated with a particular item, like a person's name.
Maybe that explains why, like, you know, 20 minutes later, you're like, oh yeah, it's all what's-her-tits.
It states that the activity level drops, the memory is gone forever. Skeptical of that theory, Rose and his team conducted a number of experiments, one of which included having people watch a screen while researchers monitored the activity in their brains. We presented two items, like a face and a word, Rose said, noting that the participants were told they needed to remember both. The researchers were able to see a distinct pattern of activity in two groups of brain cells, one that was keeping track of the face and the other that was keeping track of the word. The team then had people focus on just one of the items they had seen. When they did that, the brain activity associated with the other item disappeared. It was almost as if the item had been forgotten. So they go on and on and on about that particular theory. But then when we get to the meaty part, because they had a little twist, they introduced a transcranial magnetic stimulation via an electromagnetic coil held to the forehead and used it to fire a pulse of energy at the brain. And when we did that, we saw a brief reactivation of the unattended memory item, as if it was brought back into focal attention. Rose said, noting that the process became known as the Frankenstein effect in the lab. However, the technique only worked if people thought they would need to remember the item at a later time. So, and they're talking low. An MRI is like a huge dose. We were looking it up the other night as 1/2 to 3 Teslas, which is up to 30,000 Gauss, dude. Put it in perspective for you. A typical magnet like you would have in a guitar pickup is only 250 to 500 Gauss. So you're talking about 30,000 Gauss. And also, the Earth's electromagnetic field is only 1/2 a Tesla, which is
pretty weak.
5,000 Gauss. Right. So you're talking about a super large amount of magnetic beaming right in your brain. Bang! When you get an MRI.
It makes me wonder. You know how? Okay, we talked about how they when you boil a vacuum, those little particles come in and out of existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when they boil a space with an EM field like an MRI? How many particles are coming in and out of existence in your brain in the space between the atoms? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do to the human brain? All those little virtual particles flitting in and out of existence, hitting your neurons and whatnot.
Who knows, man? There's no telling. I damn sure don't know.
And I wonder
what do you guys think out there listening to this right now?
I wonder if there's some way to, use that for a nootropic effect. Make yourself smarter.
So,
what's it? Yeah, we said how we were talking about that other bit of science from Antarctica. The South Pole Telescope detects signal first direct evidence for cosmic inflation following the Big Bang. The too long didn't read on this. They've found patterns in Bicep 2. It's a big ass telescope down there. It's the second stage of the National Science Foundation funded collaborative program. Harvard University and the Keck Foundation have also donated to this, but they're looking for polarized light, gravitational waves, and that sort of thing. And this is pretty rad. We'll go ahead and post the article on our Facebook page. But it's getting into the science isn't terribly exciting behind it. Unless you guys really want to hear me read a big long article. So just check it out. It's on our Facebook page.
All right.
And about we're already posted the 6 new particles that we'd mentioned earlier, talking about adding to the standard model of physics. A quartet of researchers has boldly proposed the addition of 6 new particles to the standard model to explain 5 enduring problems. Guillermo Ballesteros with the University Paris-Saclay, Javier Redondo, Andreas Ringwald, and Carlos Tamarit. Standard theory is, of course, a model that, the standard model of physics, right? Protons, neutrons, electrons, all that stuff, the basic building blocks of matter. And these guys go on to, they term their new model SMASH, Standard Model Axion Seesaw Higgs Portal Inflation. So these proposed particles are the Rho to help expand inflation, the Axion to help explain dark matter, a color triplet fermion, and 3 heavy right-handed neutrinos. Too early to predict whether the model will be accepted by the physics.
Heavy-handed neutrinos?
I guess as opposed to WIMPs.
Damn heavy-handed neutrinos, always beating up on their wives.
Yeah, that's important, though, because the thing that we just talked about in Antarctica, the ice cube.
With the different flavors.
So that's, you got WIMPs, which are weakly interacting magnetic particles that they're still looking for, and that's what those could be.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's funny because I don't see a graviton in here. The abstract says, all right, and there's a lot of big words in here. A minimal extension of the standard model, providing a complete and consistent picture of particle physics and cosmology up to the Planck scale is presented. We add to the standard model 3 right-handed standard model singlet neutrinos, a new vector-like color triplet fermion, and a complex SM singlet scalar Rho, whose vacuum expectation at value around 10 to the 11th GeV breaks lepton number and a Pesei-Quinn symmetry simultaneously. A primordial inflaton is produced by a combination of Rho and the standard model Higgs. Baryogenesis proceeds through thermal leptogenesis. At low energies, the model reduces to the standard model, augmented by seesaw-generated neutrino masses plus the axion, which solves the strong CP problem and accounts for dark matter in the universe. The model can be probed decisively by the next generation of cosmic microwave background and axion dark matter experiments. That's exciting right there at the end when they say the model can be probed decisively.
Dude,
because that
is awesome. But what does that even mean?
Well, what it means is that they're trying to develop a model for finding dark matter that you can actually test for, because that's the big thing about dark matter up until now. Everything has just been conjecture. They haven't been able to prove shit. It's all been, oh, well, the math says this, but there's been no definitive experimental proof of dark matter. So
just theory, theoretical.
This might prove something that you can test to actually prove the existence of dark matter.
Did you get that, guys? All that mumbo jumbo meant what he just said.
Like, yeah, finally a way to prove dark matter.
Before we jump to break, I got this interesting little piece off of Phenomena. Oh, I just got sued.
Really?
It's coming from Collective Evolution. Yeah, because I did the Muppet song. Phenomena. Oh, I did it again. I just got sued again. All right, so interesting leak. A second NASA scientist tells us that somebody else is on the moon. All right, this is a common story. We've heard this all before. We live in a strange world, and as Neil Armstrong once said, there are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs unavailable to those who can remove one of the truth's protective layers. Fast forward to today, and a number of people have become aware of the fact that not all what goes on behind the scenes is made public. It isn't?
Oh, well, damn.
This is precisely why the Freedom of Information Act was created. It's a federal freedom of information law that allows for full or partial disclosure of previously unreleased information and documents controlled by the United States government.
It allows for the disclosure of completely redacted pages of shit that's completely black.
I know. You want to see a good example of FOIA requests? Hop on over to CIA.gov and go to their reading room and start digging through that bullshit. There are still many obstacles in the way of full transparency, one of which is the use of national security to keep information classified and hidden from public viewing. This has been more evident with the revelations of WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden, but the problem goes deeper still. Did you know that the U.S. government classifies roughly 500 million pages of documents every single year?
That's it?
It seems like it would be more. That's just the ones they told you about. This is a completely separate topic in itself, and you're interested in learning more about this, you can check out our article about the black budget, which we frequently talk about here. Okay, so NASA scientists and what they say about the moon. Multiple NASA personnel have made some pretty shocking claims about the moon. George Leonard, a NASA scientist and photo analyst who obtained various official NASA photographs of the moon, many of which he published in his book titled Somebody Else is on the Moon, is just one of these personnel. Although the photos are small in size and their resolution is not up to today's standards, they show details of original massive prints. While Leonard published the identifying code numbers of the photos in his works to back up their source, we still can't say for sure that they were real, and their poor resolution only makes matters worse. Far more compelling than these photos are his statements about what was found on the moon, along with his verified NASA credentials. Leonard was not the only one with a credible background trying to tell the world the truth regarding the moon and the photos that were taken from the Apollo missions. Ladies and gentlemen, my government, NASA, many of which in the United States stands for a never straight answer, proceeded to erase 40 rolls of film of the Apollo program. The flight to the moon, the flight around the moon, the landings on the moon, the walking guys here and there, they erased, for Christ's sake, 40 rolls of film of those events. Now we're talking about several thousand individual frames that were taken that the so-called authorities determined that you did not have the right to see. Oh, they were disruptive, socially unacceptable, politically unacceptable. I've become furious. I'm a retired command sergeant major. I was never famous for having a lot of patience. That quote is from Bob Dean, who was speaking at a conference in Europe. Bob is a retired U.S. Army command sergeant major. He also served at the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe of NATO as an intelligence analyst. When it comes to the UFO phenomenon, We now have public disclosure of thousands of documents along with hundreds of credible witness testimonies, but that is a separate topic. It's also important to note here that the Russian government recently called for an international investigation into the U.S. moon landings regarding the disappearance of the film footage of the original moon landing in 1969. They're also referring to the approximately 400 kilograms of lunar rock that was obtained during multiple missions between 69 and 72. Oh, Russia's involved. It's got to be fake news. So Leonard argued that the NASA knew about extraterrestrial activity on the moon and attempted to hide that information. He's not the only one to make such an assertion. Read the books. Read the lore. Start to understand what has really been going on, because there is no doubt that we are being visited. The universe that we live in is much more wondrous, exciting, complex, and far-reaching than we were ever able to know up until this point in time. Mankind has a long wondered if we were alone in the universe, but only in our period do we really have evidence. No, we are not alone. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, sixth man to walk on the moon, also a little bit mentally unstable, I think.
I think there was pretty good evidence when the Gold were ruling Mesopotamia.
Jabba. Leonard is not the only NASA scientist. Okay, got that. It was the Clementine mission, a photo reconnaissance mission basically to check out if someone was building bases on the moon that we didn't know about. Were they expanding them? He went on to say, of all the pictures I've seen on the moon that shows possible structures, the most impressive is a picture of a miles-wide rectilinear structure. This looks unmistakably artificial, and it shouldn't be there.
Oh, the Pentagon?
As someone in the space defense community, I look on any such structure on the moon with great concern because it isn't ours. There's no way we could have built such a thing. It means someone else is up there. Yeah, what are you talking about, Lunar Command or the Draco base?
Yeah, he's talking about fucking Darkfleet.
All right. So, it goes on a little further. I guess I'll just finish it up for you guys. And we got a clip that I want to play.
The Pentagon that Tony showed us, or not the Pentagon, the trapezoid thing?
Yeah, that's the Darkfleet base.
Yeah.
So if you're able to tell the average person you think another civilization advanced enough to have mastered space travel had been to the moon before we got there and is possibly still going there, you would, without a doubt, receive some very particular looks in return. No doubt, I get them all the time. On the other hand, if that other person were to decide to hear you out, you would probably get their attention fairly quickly. For some, this type of information can be overwhelming, even terrifying, and that's okay. Many people are not ready to open their minds up to these possibilities. But the truth of the matter is, it's something we're going to have to confront eventually. We are clearly heading towards the inevitable reality of extraterrestrial contact. That is, if we're smarten up and start taking care of our planet to the best of our ability. Perhaps we can make it long enough to realize this future, or maybe it's coming sooner than we think. That being said, there's a good deal of evidence to suggest that extraterrestrial contact is already happening. So, there you got it. Another NASA guy. Always. We get that a lot. But something even more interesting was Phantom Spy passed on to me this. It's AJ Gator, right? If you don't know who AJ Gator is, it's Infowars.com, right? That guy.
Alex Jones.
So he's on Joe Rogan's show. And they're hanging out, and they're drinking whiskey, and they're smoking pot, and they're talking the talk. And he said some very peculiar things that I've never quite heard come out of his mouth before. But one of those things being almost directly related to this particular story we just told you about here.
Want to get to that after the break?
No, let's go ahead and play that now. It's only a minute long. Yep.
Mm-hmm. They can even kill anybody they want. Mm-hmm. They can even kill anybody they want.
All right, I'm going to go back because we took Eddie's turn on chemtrails, but we did it to sidetrack from what you were saying about the moon. And I want to go back to what you're saying because you were saying that there was two completely different missions, and one of them was real, and that there was some sort of contact with aliens.
No, I was getting to that. I'm saying I had a top.
Is that what you were implying?
I had a top. Well, let's just say this.
Okay,
it's mind blowing. I was told by a top NASA individual, Raymond Teague, that indeed there was a breakaway program and that he heard and saw transmissions on some back channels of real feeds and advanced ships that he'd never even seen that basically didn't even look like they were anything that he could imagine that was classified. And he knew about some classified programs. For every program you saw, there was at least 10 programs that were secret. That's admitted about NASA, 90% secret or more. And so he knew about a bunch of classified programs, and he was seeing transmissions and things coming back and talk to people about a whole breakaway program they sent that was a lot safer, a lot bigger to the moon. And then they had guys up in orbit just basically so that even other foreign governments from the trajectory point would think they were getting transmissions back from the moon. So they had people out, basically outside the regular orbit where you just go around in circles, or is it geosynchronous where you're in one spot,
right,
transmitting back from a mathematical spot to look like transmissions to fool the Russians and everybody, while the real mission was going on the moon.
So you believe they went to the moon? Do you think that it was Buzz Aldrin and
I don't know,
Neil Armstrong?
Before
and
Raymond
Michael
would
Collins?
tell me everything, he died. He said, "I'm going to meet with you tomorrow," and he died.
Dude, that's
So there you have it. The first NASA whistleblower going to talk to Alex Jones was going to meet with him, and then he died.
Yeah,
He died.
that's how it works.
And he said definitely a secret space program, a breakaway program from what they had that got, it's pretty much it, guys. So, like, my estimation that, a lot of the photographs from the original Apollo missions were cooked up in the studio because the shit they found on the moon was just too much. And I firmly believe that.
That it was a simulation inside of a simulation.
Simulation inside of a simulation. We do got to jump to the break, but when we get back, we've got plenty more for you. What exactly do we have? Drug war news, more secret space programs, world news.
World news, surface politics. The world is going mad. The veil is getting thinner every day.
It's melting. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and jump to the break, and we will see you on the other side.
They would listen. of Saturn, virgin mother of virtue. Villainous animals will seek out and hurt you, distort you and twist you and misrepresent you. Your elegant innocence has transformed you into a definite target of manipulations, angry ravagings that blunder your purity, spoil your seed, shadow you under scrutiny, or hide you entirely from consensus reality. Veritas, one and only. Veritas, our own. Veritas. Seeking her endlessly, she's ever elusive. Further and further now, your source gets diluted, and the well is always deeper. How deep can you dive? How deep is your need to stare the truth in the eye? The truth is that you hide from her. You are vulnerable as you lied to yourself. Pitiable as you do. Veritas, one and only. Veritas, our own. Veritas, we will find you. We will know you. We will own you. Veritas. Control you.
And we're back, guys.
That was
You know what time it is.
invigorating step out into the brisk evening.
It's time for the second hour of the reality brief. We got a little myself taking us out of the break there. Great stuff. Check it out, myself.bandcamp.com. And
Do that.
yeah. So we're over here.
So
We're no longer at the secret undisclosed location for the time being.
no, we are at the happening.
It had become compromised, and we need to find a mobile location. So we're at the mobile RFR studios here in Hampton, Virginia. And we'd just like to say, if you like this show, go on over to the Patreon/Radio Free Radio. See what you can do to help it out. You know what I mean? Every little bit you guys do gets us this fancy stuff so we can make the show even better for you guys. And it can break in the middle of the show. We can't have video, and then we can have video.
For only 15 cents a day, you too could sponsor fake news.
You know, we got our own YouTube channel as well. Some videos and stuff up there. Exclusive content outside of Radio Free Radio. You want to check that out? Just go to YouTube, type in the Reality Brief. And you'll get that. It's pretty easy to find. Hit us up on the Facebook, facebook.com/realitybrief.
Check out some of tonight's show notes. Look through some of the articles and some of the fake news that we are bringing to you.
Fake news. Also, guys, you know, second hour, phone calls if you want to get in on
You
the
guys
conversation.
should totally call in.
You got something to say, you want
I
to talk
like
about
right
what we're
on the
talking about,
phone.
you want to talk something else, 757-525-3276.
That's 757-525-3276.
757-525-3276.
You know what else I like more than phone calls?
What's that?
Nothing. It didn't work.
Awesome. So, what's next up there on the docket, guy?
Well, oh man. Besides bases on the moon, there's also we found something else orbiting us that nobody had noticed before either. A giant galaxy orbiting our own has just appeared out of nowhere, or maybe we just saw it. But yeah, astronomers have scanning the skies got a huge surprise. There's a gigantic galaxy orbiting our own Milky Way. The recently discovered Crater 2 galaxy. We apparently just never saw it. We can't blame the galaxy's size for its relative insignificance. It's so massive that researchers have already identified it as the fourth largest galaxy orbiting our own. So, we've talked about previously how our own galaxy is a cannibal. It has a tendency to devour smaller galaxies and assimilate them into the larger spiral that is the Milky Way.
We are the Milky Nom.
Yep. So, Crater's 2 orbit around the Milky Way puts it precisely just in our neighborhood. Regardless of being huge and close, it's also pretty dark. It's also pretty faint. So they're referring to it as a feeble giant. But yeah, apparently it's big, it's massive, and it's a good candidate for hunting dark matter. So, tying in with that dark matter news that we just got into a little while ago, who knows? Maybe there'll be all sorts of dark stuff happening up there.
It's pretty crazy that, all of a sudden it's just like, hey, guess what, guys? There's a giant galaxy orbiting our own. Mm-hmm. Just like out of nowhere, man. It's amazing to me. The shit that we can find.
Never saw it.
I don't know. So, when it got to the Milky Way was like, go away, Peyton. Rock my house. So, we did. Check this out. All right, so we've been over and over. It should be drilled in your head now that the Nazis didn't lose. They infiltrated Western military-industrial complex and intelligence agencies and governments and, used those resources to build their Fourth Reich.
They diversified.
And, we talk about the companies and everything all the time. I found this, it's on Ranker. So I'm assuming Ranker, what is this, like, what was that, Dig?
Yeah.
Dig?
Yeah,
same
it's like
same type of thing, I guess?
The next Dig.
All right, well, let's see what this Chris Abraham has to say about it. 9 companies with surprising ties to Nazi Germany. And I bet you we probably have talked about all of these in this list. I didn't even bother reading it because that's just, I'm a pro like that. Whatever. Who cares if it's fake news? We'll find out.
Volkswagen, duh. I think everybody knows that.
Nazi Germany represents one of the most deplorable times in the history of humanity. But did you know that several major companies that are still thriving today had ties with the Nazi movement? If you drive a Jetta, own a Kodak camera, or even take Bayer to alleviate headaches, you're unknowingly using a product that had ties to the Third Reich. Some of these companies associated with Nazi Germany may be obvious, but many of them will likely surprise you. And even some of these have direct ties to Adolf Hitler himself. Which, if you ask me, the real evil behind Nazi Germany wasn't Adolf Hitler. Obviously, that guy had handlers.
It was the money driving it.
Obviously, that guy had handlers. So, number 1 on the list, Volkswagen. Far Vergnügen, dude. To deadheads and hippies who grew up in the 60s, the Volkswagen Beetle represented peace, love, and tranquility.
Yeah, I always thought it was kind of funny how Herbie the Love Bug was really a Nazi hate machine.
But did you know that the Beetle was actually the brainchild of Hitler himself? The Führer had the desire to create a car for the common man, since owning a vehicle in early 1930s Germany was something only the wealthy could afford. There goes Hitler, just looking out for the common guy. In fact, the word Volks translates to people in German, thus making the Volkswagen the people's car. Hitler's desire.
This is one of those things that I thought fucking everybody knew. Like, this is one of those things that I thought was just sort of like common knowledge.
Well, I bet you there's people out there that don't know this, man. Hitler's desire to create an affordable car for the common man was deemed impossible if done by the private industry. It's funny. In a side note, Volkswagen just got busted doing all that shady fuel emission shit where your car would be like, oh, so awesome, passing strict fuel emission standards, for the first 20 minutes. But then when you take it out on the highway, the software's like, puts it in a 1962 mode. But they got busted and they got fined pretty heftily.
Sneaky Germans.
So, Hitler's desire to create an affordable car for the common man was deemed impossible if done by the private industry, leading him to team with Ferdinand Porsche to create what we now call the Beetle.
Stupid commie Nazis.
So next time you see a cherry 19-year-old college girl cruising in her VW, just smile knowing that she's unknowingly driving a product conceived of by one of the most evil men to ever live.
I mean,
this is the best.
You don't know that it's unknowingly. She probably, for all you know, she could have an account over at Daily Stormer.
Oh, is this one of those scroll through me with the...
one of those clickbait. So, Hugo Boss, duh, we know. Bear, yeah, we've talked about how Bear has ties to the Nazis and made Zyklon B and all that shit. IBM, yes, we've talked on this show about how the Nazis used the Hollerith machine to catalog fucking prisoners. Puma and Adidas.
Oh,
okay, that I did not know.
Well, I knew that, but go ahead. Enlighten us.
All right, what's it say about Puma and Adidas? That's some shit. I didn't know about that. Sibling rivalry as old as time itself. The Nazi brothers Rudolf and Adi Dassler are a testament to that. The shoemaker companies both joined the Nazi party when Hitler rose to power. After Rudolf was captured by Allied forces and accused of being a member of the SS, he made sure that his brother Adi was the one who had sold him out. Or he was sure that his brother had sold him out. Rudolf split away from his brother's shoemaking company, forming a new company called Puma. And Adi went, of course, to create Adidas, which, now you know doesn't stand for All Day I Dream About Soccer? Yeah, sure, that's what that means.
Look, in this next one here, as a mechanic, I can agree that this car is a goddamn Nazi, and that would be the BMW. It turns out that the BMW, look, because it was engineered strictly to punish the person working on it. I mean, it's ridiculous. So it turns out that BMWs aren't just the official cars of trust fund children. They're also loved by the Nazi regime. Hey, everybody, let the BMW put the little swastika on your arm. It could be all traced back to Gunther Quandt, a German Nazi industrialist who found a massive conglomerate that included BMW. His industrial empire was kept running by more than 50,000 slave laborers. And Quandt was also known to forcibly shut down businesses that had Jewish owners. Pretty crazy.
What a dick.
Whoa, Quandt was given a title of... Wait.
Yeah, good luck with that.
We're Wirtschaftsführer by Adolf Hitler, which roughly meant leader of the armament economy. Quandt's ties with the Nazi party were so deep. They were so deep.
So deep.
Forget it. Then after his second wife divorced him in 1929, she ended up marrying Joseph Goebbels. The best man at the wedding? None other than the Führer himself. I wonder if Hitler caught the flowers.
Siemens. Now that's a big one because these guys actually operate around here. They're a big company in Newport
Siemens.
News. Siemens AG, a massive global conglomerate that manufactures just about everything, is no stranger to controversy. Back there in World War II, the company had thousands of Jewish slaves working in their factories, many of whom would build things during the day and be put to death before sun went down. Although that is horrendously evil, one of their more recent faux pas came when they tried to trademark the word Zyklon for their new line of products, which included, get this, the gas stoves. Zyklon, of course, was the name of the poison gas that killed so many Jews and gypsies. You know what, man? This pisses me off how fucking, honestly, like, I come from a Jewish family, and I always think it's fucking bullshit how the gypsies get left out every time the Holocaust is mentioned, because they got it just as bad as the Jews, if not worse. Who on earth thought that was a good idea? Anyhow, yeah. So who else have we got? Kodak.
This one, I don't think I've ever heard this before.
They don't mention 3M too. BASF and 3M.
Yep. Or IG Farben, of course, isn't on this list, or Ford for that matter.
Well, IG Farben was mentioned under the Bear page, which is like number 3.
When you imagine a Kodak moment, you don't exactly think of strong Nazi ties and Jewish slaves. Like other companies on the list, Kodak was notorious for using Jewish slave laborers that were plucked from concentration camps. Although they're just plucked from concentration camps. Additionally, William Kepler.
This looks like a good one, yeah?
William Kepler. I know, I definitely came across. All right, so a chief economic advisor to Hitler had deep ties with Kodak. In fact, he even warned Kodak and a few other American companies that they would benefit from firing all of their Jewish employees.
Yeah, that's what I expect from a bunch of Nazis.
Now, this one I never knew, and this is blowing my mind right now.
We have talked about this. Bertelsmann AG. What's it? Because remember, Jim Mars talked about that in Rule by Secrecy.
Man, there's so much. It's packing. It's coming out the sides like Donald Trump draining the swamp by overfilling it.
Nah, I know about this. Fucking yeah. What's it? Random House isn't 100% at fault for their Nazi connection. Bertelsmann AG, the parent of the company Random House, was known for working with the Nazis, and even publishing Hitler propaganda. One of the books they helped print, Sterilization and Euthanasia, a contribution to applied Christian ethics. Not exactly cat in the hat, huh, Random House? Well, you know what they didn't mention here, what they failed to mention here, is that Bertelsmann AG got started printing out manuals for the German army in World War I. By the time World War II had rolled around, they were one of the biggest printing houses in Germany, and now probably about 80 to 90% of the books that you see printed in the United States have some financial tie to Bertelsmann AG. They are one of the biggest media conglomerates in the fucking world. You'll hear us go on about how there are 6 companies that own 90% of the media. Well, Bertelsmann's one of them. And yeah, that company is fucking massive. So when you want to talk about information getting scrubbed out of search engines, think about the information that gets scrubbed out of your bookstores. Think about the information that gets scrubbed out of your movies. Think about the information that gets scrubbed out of every piece of media that's commercially available to you.
Yeah, which also explains why they would just label this Random House and make that prominent, and then be like, oh yeah, Random House, they were owned by the parent, and wasn't that great.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit, I wouldn't want to be tied to that either, but I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure Random
right,
House
but my point is
exactly.
My point is anyway that this shouldn't even have Random House on here because it's irrelevant.
It's about Bertelsmann.
Right, exactly.
This is shoddy journalism, folks.
It's fake news. See, now this isn't fake news. It's just misleading and sugarcoating.
Yes.
So who's that on the left there that talked about that? What was it? Chomsky?
Yeah.
Manufactured consent, which is basically what's going on now by the left.
Yeah, it's pretty much, cherry picking. We're going to go through and pick out the stuff that fits our narrative. So, I mean, this piece of journalism, if you can call it that, on Ranker is pretty much...
Ranker. I'm going to downrank that guy. Downrank him. Nah, it was all right. I mean, it's a good look. It's a good starter piece because, let's be honest, folks. If you didn't know anything about any of the stuff we were talking about, and you all of a sudden just tuned in and you heard about the Nazis and all that, you'd be like, whatever, dude.
Well, at least this time we're talking about Earth Nazis and not space Nazis, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be like, whatever, dude. But on the other hand, maybe the lighter way is a good way, like a fluffy type thing. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Whatever. What's up?
One thing that the Nazis were really big on was invading people. And on that note, another thing leaked from anonnews.co is a bill to preemptively attack Iran introduced in Congress. I'd actually wanted to get to this last week, but we just didn't have time.
Oh, my God.
Representative L.C. Hastings, Democrat from Florida, recently introduced a weapon that would enable U.S. to invade Iran for the stated purpose of preventing it from obtaining nuclear weapons. So, yeah, the too long didn't read. During the 2016 election, Donald Trump seemed to be the anti-war candidate compared to Hillary. But, now that he's in office, he's taking a more saber-rattly tone with Iran and China. Earlier this month, Congressman L.C. Hastings introduced H.J. Res. 10, or the Authorization of Use of Force Against Iran Resolution. Taken at face value, the bill appears to allow the president to authorize military force against Iran, which is bad enough. But the text of the bill goes further. It allows the president to launch a preemptive war with a Middle Eastern nation without requiring congressional approval, and without the necessity of Iran actually having committed any action that would warrant a full-scale invasion. Specifically, the text of the bill states that the president is authorized to use the armed forces of the United States as the president determines necessary and appropriate in order to achieve the goal of preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons.
That Iran deal is a bad deal. We're going to get a good deal, believe me. What the hell was that?
Yeah, more lies and bullshit.
No, that horrible ass impression I just did.
Oh yeah, well that was pretty bad. You know, I remember the Democrats going apeshit when Bush wanted to basically do this with Iraq. Where are they now, huh? Again,
Yep.
like we mentioned earlier, besides Code Pink, fucking where are these buttholes now?
So now, out there listening, guys,
They're always bipartisan.
this
on
story
shit like
he
war.
just read you, can you go back to that and pull out that bill number again?
HJ Res 10.
HJ Res 10. All
Yeah.
right, so that would be from this Congress.
Yes.
So you got to go over to the Library of Congress, Thomas, right? The
Yeah.
Electronic Library Thomas. And you put in HR Res 10. And you read that bill and see if that's even what it says. Because, look, we obviously didn't do that, but we will eventually. I mean, it's just a giant queue of shit to look through. You know, everything on this show, verify for yourself. Because, you know, we might got tricked one time or two. Who knows? And then also,
It comes
something like this, a story from Anonymous, like, you know, I want to believe in Anonymous, but
All right. Well,
I know that, you know.
I'm posting a direct link to the actual text of the bill on our Facebook page. So stop by and talk amongst yourselves. Take a look.
There it is,
And-
right there.
and
It's
if you-
there. It's real, guys. It's not fake news this time.
Yeah, not fake anymore. And if you want to call in and tell us it's fake, you should. 757-525-3276. Again, that's 757-525-3276.
Oh, that's the wrong way. Up there.
Huh? Where? Well, I like numbers.
All right, so ranker.
Oh, yeah. What's it? One of our listeners chimes in. Remember that time that Bear unknowingly infected a bunch of people with HIV?
You got AIDS.
AIDS.
Not HIV, but full-blown AIDS.
Thanks, Bear.
I do have
You
one
damn Nazi aspirin.
article I would like to share with you guys at this point. All right.
Is it this
Last
one?
night, I was researching some stuff for the show, and I kind of got sucked into this. It's just, and then I passed out. So, I mean, I want to show you what I got sucked into, or part of it anyway, just a small part of this. This is up on Sit Show Blogspot. Right, Stillness in the Storm. It's another radio show like ours, Exo-Politics show. And this is what they have to say. This is what malevolent ETs are doing to humans. Malevolent. I'm sorry, don't yell. Ed Cushman. I've lived in this planet for over 75 years. Thus, I have some experience. And it tells me things aren't right. Being retired, I have lots of time to spend on the computer keeping up with what's going on and not being said in the news media. I should probably say what they're not allowed to say. Few people realize that what they hear and are told is highly controlled. We're being kept in the dark. So in this article, I'm going to reveal what is being done to humans that they don't know about and don't want to believe. This ought to be good, guys, for you. Oh, look. And the source is in 5D.
Nice. Hey, Draconians. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. It takes a lot of research, reading, watching, and listening to get a true picture of our world. It's not all told in one place, but it's revealed in many bits and pieces here and there. I totally agree with that statement. Few working class people have the time nor inclination to do this search or research. I also agree with that too. Because look, I don't even want to do it, but I still do. They wouldn't believe much of it anyway because they don't see it on the nightly news.
That's a lie.
What's that?
You do too want to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I have a unquenchable thirst for knowing the unknowable, and it fucking drives me mad. So here's what I learned from numerous books, talks, and articles from many sources as of February 2017. I'm not citing any of my sources because there are far too many of them over a long period of time. It would fill a book. I've considered each source and believe them to be true to the best of my ability. I'm skipping a lot of detail and background information as it would become too involved. This is a brief overview. This may sound like science fiction to you, but as you've probably not heard this before, keep an open mind. Let me start at the beginning, because this isn't widely known either. The human inhabitants of Earth have unknowingly evolved and been manipulated and controlled for many centuries by a reptilian race from other galaxies.
Other galaxies or our own galaxy?
Or our very own planet. We
Yeah,
call
from
them
inside the Earth.
ETs. They have manipulated our genes and has been for their own benefit. We were brought here as slaves to work for them. There are numerous varieties of humans, black, white, or oriental, etc. This is because we've come
Oriental?
from many...
Who says Oriental anymore?
This guy, he's an old guy, probably. This is because we've become... This is because we've come from many places in the galaxies. Most planets have only one type of species, but that because of this collecting, we have many.
Jafari.
The Alpha Draconians are different kinds of Draco reptilian life forms, often giant in shape. These races are commonly mentioned as cruel conqueror race and deeply involved in Earth's history. These reptilians are so advanced. They're so advanced.
Yeah, that they have surpassed the physical.
Oh, gosh. You keep missing it. You're supposed to say, how advanced are they? Oh, God. God.
I'm not firing on all cylinders tonight, man.
Where am
Come
I
on.
at anyway? Now I lost my place. Great.
These ETs live for
There you go.
thousands of years and thus are very intelligent. To make dealing with us easy, they've dumbed us down. We're a crude, primitive race compared to them. They normally communicate telepathically, but some speak physically. They've kept this from us. Can you imagine our world if we could just read each other's thoughts? It would be like Facebook, but worse. It would be very different and probably a better word.
God.
No,
Could
it
you
would not be a
imagine?
better
Could
word.
you imagine if you had to forcibly intake everyone's Facebook drivel fucking constantly 24/7? We can't block it out.
Yeah. Yeah, just no. Just no. I don't want to be.
I had a burrito today.
I don't want to be telepathically. I don't want to be telepathically.
Listen
linked
to my
people I
radio
like.
show.
I drank too much coffee. Somebody get these bees out of my teeth. Fuck.
Good Lord. There's a
ET
large variety of aliens from many parts of the galaxy. There are some we call tall whites. They look much like Nordic people. One woman told of seeing a male and a female in a casino in Las Vegas. Who spells Las Vegas like that? She was intrigued by their perfect, beautiful clothing and perfect skin. She followed them down an escalator and could hear them in her mind. They made a comment about the woman behind them who was listening to them.
Her lipstick looks like shit.
Whoa. What are called the Dracs, who look like reptiles, live in our underground. They prefer the underground to the surface as we do. Humans are helping them. Workers building secret tunnels for our government came across other tunnels that no one knew about. Reptilians regard us as
like
primitive.
Dulce Basio.
Reptilians regard... they said that was like... wasn't that supposed to have been Greys?
Yeah.
That whole
Well,
skirmish
but-
with that guy that got lost his fingers?
Yeah, weren't some of the reptilians supposed to be kind of greys, like, or drones for the greys? Or the greys are drones for the reptilians or something like that?
Well, man, if you go along with the secret space program consensus is that most of the gray species were drones used by whatever races, and we even have them. And that's what was doing the military abductions. You know, your standard gray alien abduction scenario.
Yeah.
Quite possibly may just be strictly terrestrial military.
Well, he says right here, it says, not all reptilians are evil. Some are good, some are good, blah, 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 blah. The Apexian Greys have heavily genetically re-engineered and manipulated us, it doesn't say them or us, until they became a more android race. They are probably the most widely variety known of ET. Gray aliens were created as a slave race to the reptilians. All right, well, I'm glad that's cleared up.
I mean...
Didn't
I'm glad. Well, that does it for me.
well, didn't you say according to the secret, according to the secret space program? Didn't you say there were like 50 different species of reptilians or some shit?
Yeah, there is. There's like, yeah, there really is. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
It wasn't that
We
far.
gotta compose your back. We have many types of ETs with us. Most are good.
You don't know that.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, you don't know that.
I think there's any good ones. They're very few. They have powers and abilities far beyond that of mortal man. Who says from Superman? They can change their appearance and control our mind. The mind control is also being used by our secret government, apparently influenced by them. ETs have covertly taken control of this planet. Many of the humans among us are either ETs or are controlled by them. Oh my God. Our human DNA is very valuable to them. Human girls have been transported to other galaxies to produce babies for them to work with. We humans are not the enemy. The enemy isn't human. The enemy is pushing our buttons. They want us to destroy ourselves so they can keep the planet.
This almost reads like an old Jose Linares track.
The Alpha Draconians are behind this whole affair. If they didn't have us humans, they would have to eat each other. I'm sorry. It just struck me. This guy strikes me as funny. That's all. The last thing they wanted to be involved with is nature. They use all the bad routines and devices, i.e. drugs, etc., that some of us humans do. All people of power are under control of them, and the people don't know it. Recently, it was reported that an internal document acknowledging that Queen Elizabeth is a shape-shifting reptilian was briefly published across a press release on the royal family's official website before being abruptly taken down. That sounds like an anonymous troll or something. They just hacked the website and put the Queen's a reptilian. During World War II, the Germans were assisted with their secret UFO technology by reptilian consultants. Now, look, what we do know about this is that they thought they were at least channeling something. Now, was it an extraterrestrial race? Was it a terrestrial race? Was it an interdimensional race? I mean, who knows if it was anything at all, but
here's something out of this that actually might have some, because I saw an article about this too. This guy says that at these meetings it was decided that the existence of ETs on this planet could not be revealed to humans because the population could not handle the truth. Eisenhower's great-granddaughter has come out publicly about the meeting. She said, in 2012, I've had several meetings with extraterrestrials, and for the most part, they want human rights and self-determination. But they just said that, they're eating us, so what the fuck? She is on a mission to continue her family legacy to expose the dark secrets of the military-industrial complex. Eventually, the bad ETs decided there are too many humans on this planet, and they want to reduce our population to the more manageable numbers. Now, the idea that there are rich, psychotic people that want to eliminate most of the population on the planet, I mean, that is actually kind of written in stone.
Mm-hmm.
But,
no doubt.
The veracity of this
Georgia,
article,
baby. Georgia.
This guy jumps from topic to topic to topic, and there's just too much to cover with the limited amount of time that we have left. But if you want to see it, it says at the bottom about the author. Ed Cushman has written several books and has a website, quietworld.com, that features outdoor and nature photography.
Take it for what it is, guys. Many of these types of stories, you got to kind of find the common threads, and who the fuck knows?
For your reading pleasure, I'll go ahead and paste this on the Reality Brief on the Reality Brief Facebook page, so you can stop by and
check it out.
Throw us a like if you like. What's it?
Good news. Good news.
Good news. Some good news for a change.
Good news, guys. Good news.
Kidding.
Senator pushes bill to ban mandatory human microchips. But the bad news is we need a bill to ban mandatory human microchips. So it's good news, but it's also bad news.
The ANCAP in me is at a loss. I don't want the government banning anything, but on the other hand, this is bad.
I don't want them forcing anything either.
Yeah.
Nevada, a new bill proposed by a senator who sees the potential for tracking humans to come to fruition, would make mandatory microchipping of humans a Class C felony. Nevada State Senator Becky Harris believes Senate Bill 109 could be a preemptive measure against the worldwide push to implant humans with microchips.
Yeah, see, if you want to get implanted with a
chip,
ahead. I don't think anybody should be able to stop you.
No.
But if you don't want to be implanted with a
chip,
you
should not have one stuck in you.
You should not be able to be forced to have a chip.
Look, because I know several people. I'm looking at you, Phantom Spy. I'm looking at you. That would love to have a damn chip in their brain. And that's cool. You could do whatever you want to do. It's your body. You know what I'm saying? You choose your path there. But you ain't gonna turn around and tell me I gotta put a goddamn microchip in my head, because that shit ain't happening. I'd buck on that just for the principle you telling me what to do.
Damn right. You damn
Shit.
Skippy.
Anyway, so this is in what? Yeah, this is in what state is this? Arizona?
Arizona?
I don't know. Nevada.
Yeah.
So if you want to check some more about that out, this article's on activistpost.com. I mean, I'm sure you could just type in, bill to ban mandatory human microchips up on the Google machine, and it'll pop right up
We
there
are just
for
some
you.
link posting motherfuckers tonight. We're going to go ahead and paste that on the reality brief page, too.
So what was that then?
So, speaking of all these memos, we were talking earlier about that 7th floor group, right?
Right.
Well, it looks
I'll
like...
get the link.
Okay, cool. It looks like one of their memos has come out. New declassified CIA memo presents blueprint for Syrian regime collapse. This was actually reported on Valentine's Day. Brad Hoff, February 14th, 2017. A newly declassified CIA document explored multiple scenarios of Syrian regime collapse at a time when Hafez al-Assad's government was embroiled in a covert, dirty war with Israel in the West, and in the midst of a diplomatic crisis, which marked an unprecedented level of isolation for Syria. This 24-page formerly classified memo entitled Syria, Scenarios of Dramatic Political Change was introduced in July of 1986 and had high-level distribution within the Reagan administration and agency directors, including presidential advisors, the National Security Council, and the U.S. ambassador to Syria. This memo appears in the CIA's latest CREST release, CIA's record search tool, of over 900,000 recently declassified documents. So, we've told you guys multiple times this stuff is just going to be coming out one article at a time because there's so much shit to go through. Well, here's part of what's in there. The memo's cover letter, drafted by the CIA's Director of Global Issues, the report itself was prepared by the division's Foreign Subversion and Instability Center, introduces the purpose of presenting a number of possible scenarios that could lead to the ouster of President Assad or other dramatic change in Syria. So, we've mentioned on this show, again, I hate to keep backpedaling to this, but we've talked about this shit before, how PNAC, a Project for a New American Century, had a plan for regime change all over the Middle East back in the 70s.
Oh, actually, how about rebuilding America's defenses? September 11th, 2000.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is get up on the Google machine, type in the Project for New American Century and rebuilding America's defenses. Now, it used to be hosted on their own website for a long time, but I'm sure it's not there anymore, but you should be able to find it. And in this, it essentially lays out what we had happen. All right, and they even called for, they need to make their plan work, they needed a catalyzing event, such as a new Pearl Harbor. And their plan was to be able to fight simultaneous theater wars across the globe, right, while still maintaining, security at home. And they laid out a plan for race-specific bioweapons. Oh! It's crazy, right? It sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, the gene bombs.
Why don't you go ahead and prove me wrong? Go ahead. Type in Project for a New American Century. Find the document I'm talking about and tell me it doesn't say that.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it totally does. And, it's something, what else is funny that I noticed?
It was signed by Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, the whole gang.
Yep,
the whole gang,
Paul
guys.
Wolfowitz, Richard
right?
Pearl.
And everything we've had since then has been an extension of this same group of neocons, which is what they've been labeled. I mean, you can call them whatever the fuck you want.
I've seen them playing with that concept on a couple of sci-fi shows too. The Killjoys is this show that I've seen on the Sci-Fi Channel, and they come up. I thought it was cool.
Dude, I'd downrank Killjoys too.
Well,
but the Expanse.
I thought
the Expanse, though, man. The Expanse.
Well, hang on. Let's not get off topic. There's a couple of episodes in Killjoys where they have a gene bomb, and in this case, it's a directed energy weapon, or not really a directed, but just an energy weapon. And it's not just a virus. It's this thing that goes off and releases this flash of energy. And if your genetic code is the program genetic code or has the genetic markers that it's looking for, then it just fucking scrambles you into a pile of ash.
Just like that.
Yep.
Only much dumber.
I thought it was cool.
Look, I tried it for a bit, but I didn't like it.
I dug it. Well, anyhow, the CIA is trying to overthrow motherfuckers and has been since at least 1986, probably way sooner.
What?
So, yeah.
They've been trying to overthrow motherfuckers for a long time, man.
Yeah, well.
Wait, how about the Shah? Was that the 50s?
Well, we're just talking about Syria right now, okay? So, yeah, even in 1986, they talked about the possibility of an Islamic State rising in Damascus. Talked about...
So, essentially, they wrote the blueprint in 86 for what we got now.
Yep.
To get the enemy they needed so they can complete their rebuilding America's defenses scenario.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it. Build the boogeyman, guys, so you can go attack him.
The very real possibility of a new world order.
It's so sad how they do. I mean, they fund both sides of the war. They build up boogeymen for you to go fight and hate.
They're all wars for politicians, and
they don't give a rat's ass. They really don't give a rat's ass.
Mm-hmm. They do not.
Damn, now I got me on myself all depressed.
Now, this might be fake news, too. I'm not sure if... well, this is reported by the Onion's AV Club, and I just thought this is not...
No, that's not fake.
This might actually be legit. Apparently, Steve Bannon used to be CEO of a World of Warcraft gold farming company.
China Gold?
Yeah.
I used to be CEO of a Star Trek gold farming company.
Yeah, didn't you say they finally took that map out?
Yeah, they did.
There's got to be some new exploit.
Shh.
But yeah, apparently Steve Bannon's past careers continue to be the gift that keeps on giving. We've previously reported on the top presidential advisor and Darth Vader fanboys' attempts to break into a world of rap musicals and heavy-handed science fiction. Boing Boing has dug up a Wired article from last year, revealing that one of Bannon's old jobs was CEO of a gold farming company in World of Warcraft.
Whoa. All right, so look, before we jet, we got one last clip of Alex Jones that you absolutely must hear, because this is just insane. Look. Look, back in the day when I was doing the We Are Change thing and all that, I used to listen to InfoWars, on a pretty regular basis, and until I figured out what was going on, you know what I mean? But I will tell you that I had never heard this man say anything even remotely close to this, right? And in fact, when anything like this would come up, he would immediately ridicule and belittle it, and you know what I mean? And it was just amazing. So to me, it's kind of strange that he's saying this now, and it leads me to believe that there's some kind of damned agenda going on behind this, whether it be towards that partial disclosure narrative or whatever. So, Dan, cue up that file.
All right. And real quick, I do want to come back to this.
We don't have time.
We don't? All right. Well, there's another article I'm going to post real quick. It's links to Independent Sentinel real quick. It'll be on our Facebook page, and it backpedals back to the whole Vault 7 thing. But the title of it is Obama tied to a 5-nation spy ring? So we'll see about that. Check our page. This one.
Yeah. What?
Come on, do something fun.
Oh.
People out there that have this horrific programming, whatever the fuck it is that causes it. There's a bunch of psychologists trying to speculate and figure out what causes pedophilia.
But they need to be beaten in the head with a ball-peen hammer.
Well, the thing is, it's real, and it's terrifying.
And we can't deny it's going on.
We can't deny it's real, and it's also like fucking Jared from Subway, the Subway guy. The Subway guy's in jail for being a pedophile.
And
like,
they team up.
Fuck,
they team up, and they usually have high intelligence. And there's armies. We're fighting a pedophile conspiracy, but beyond that, it's a vampire conspiracy in that they are interdimensionally sucking the essence of our youth.
Right.
And they believe they're possessed by an off-world entity.
They do?
Yeah, and Joe, I've been on air 22 years. I don't get into aliens, metaphysical, religion, any of that. I've studied the elite. And I've also communicated with a lot of the top people. And if you want to know, I will actually break down right now.
Okay, so, oh my gosh. All right, so basically he's saying that we talked about the channeling with the Nazis, right? They believe they're being taken over by some type of being. People are saying it's the reptilian Draco, right? Channeling. So now that's essentially what he just was talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all semantics here, guys. I mean, I said it earlier in a conversation about something. It was like, one person's demon is another person's interdimensional being. One person's Draco is another person's demon, or whatever. It's semantics. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about a common threads here. So, cute clip there, guy. You like how I snap? So good.
The best knowledge right now what's happening on the planet.
What's happening?
Let me give you a basic gestalt.
Okay. I love when you can use that word with full confidence. I've never said that. Let me give you a basic gestalt. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm such a fraud.
No, you're not.
No, but that's what I'd think if I use that word.
No, you'll get all this because you'll already have most of the static because you're a bookworm, a research worm, in a good way. The elite are all about transcendence and living forever and the secrets of the universe, and they want to know all this. Some are good, some are bad, some are a mix. But the good ones don't ever want to organize. The bad ones tend to want to organize because they lust after power. Powerful consciousnesses don't want to dominate other people. They want to empower them, so they don't tend to get together until things are really late in the game. Then they come together. Evil's always defeated because good is so much stronger. And we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's why all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is artificial. The computers are scanning it and finding tension points where it's artificially projected and gravity's bleeding in to this universe. That's what they call dark matter. So we're like a thought or a dream that's a wisp in some computer program, some God's mind, whatever. They're proving it all. It's all coming out. Now, there's like this sub-transmission zone below the third dimension that's just turned over to the most horrible things is what it resonates to. And it's trying to get up into the third dimension that's just a basic level consciousness to launch into the next levels. And our species is already way up in the fifth, sixth dimension, consciously, our best people. But there's this big war trying to, like, basically...
So... he's essentially there talking about ascension theory, like what David Wilcock talks about, right? How
that's pretty much what it sounds
there's
like.
this AI that's or something that's second dimensional trying to break into third dimensional so it can ascend to energy or whatever. I mean, it's just amazing that this guy would be talking about this shit to me, man.
That Alex Jones, after all these years of seemingly getting absorbed into the more mundane right-wing part of the media.
Yeah.
That he would actually even be on about any of this at all.
Yeah. That is weird. It's so weird, man. It's melting.
Yep.
It's melting down.
The veil is getting thin.
We do got a jet though, and it's a 3-hour podcast, and maybe we'll play the rest of it for you next week. But it's pretty. Not the whole 3 hours, the rest of that little few-minute clip I got there.
Well, tell you what, we're going to be shit-posting links all night to the Reality Brief Facebook page. We've already shared a good chunk of our show notes, and in order to keep our audience engaged, we're going to go ahead and share the rest of them all night, because we ain't got nothing else better to do. So,
no.
Stop by our Facebook page, check out our production notes, and, thanks for listening, folks.
See you next week.